The police officer looked at the necklace on my daughter's throat and stopped breathing for half a second. That was the moment when the room changed. Not when my aunt Denise Cater screamed that my 8-year-old had stolen from her. Not when my daughter, Lily Bennett, started shaking so hard she nearly dropped the little velvet gift box still sitting open on the coffee table. Not even when two officers stepped through my front door while birthday cakes were still untouched on the counter. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notification bell for updates. No, it changed when Officer Matthew Roos leaned in, saw the necklace, then his hat just collapsed around Lily's neck 10 minutes earlier, and his face went still. Have you ever watched someone realize something is wrong before they say a word? This is what I saw, and in that instant, I knew this was never about the necklace. My name is Rachel Bennett. I'm 34, a single mom, and I learned a long time ago that family chaos usually arrives disguised as something small, a comment, a favor, a gift. Denise, my mother's younger sister, was 46 and the kind of woman people described as elegant because it was safer than calling her what she really was: controlled, sharp, impossible to challenge unless you wanted to be into the problem. She was always dressed like she was going somewhere more important than wherever she already was. Cream blouse, gold watch, a hair perfect, smile practiced. And yet, that afternoon at Lily's birthday lunch, she was acting just a little off. Not enough for anyone else to say it out loud, enough for me to notice. She arrived late, carrying a tiny navy jewelry box in her hand and her phone in the other. She hugged Lily tighter than usual, too tight, actually. Then she knelt and told her in this swampy voice I almost never heard from her that she had picked out something special because it was a very grown up age. Lily lit up. That's the part that still gets me because Lily is soft hearted in that dangerous way children can be. She notices when adults are kind, she notices even more when they usually aren't. Dennis had never been openly cruel to her, but warm? No, not warm. So, when my aunt suddenly acted affectionate, Lily sucked it in like sunlight. Dennis opened the box slowly, almost ceremonially. Inside was a delicate silver necklace with a small oval pendant. Pretty, supple, a little old fashioned for a child, if I'm honest, but still beautiful. Lily gasped. Dennis smiled like she had just given away the moon. Then she said, "Let me put it on you myself." That line means more to me now than it did then. At the moment, I just stood there beside the birthday banner I had taped coakedly to the wall and watched my daughter lift her hair with both hands while Denise reached out her neck and fastened the clasp. I remember thinking the pendant looked heavier than it should have. I even remember Denise adjusting it twice after it was already on, like she was making sure it sat exactly where she wanted. Did that strike me as odd? Yes. Did I think police would be standing in my living room 10 minutes later because of it? Not even close. The lunch kept moving. My mom, Patricia Bennett, 62, was carrying plates from the kitchen. My older brother, Evan, 37, was trying to fix the Bluetooth speaker Lily had insisted on using for her birthday playlist. Dennis kept checking her phone once, twice, then again. Every time it lit up, her whole posture tightened. I asked if everything was okay. She smiled too fast and said, "Of course. Why wouldn't it be?" That should have been my warning. But less than 5 minutes later, Denise put a hand to her chest and said, "Where is it?" At first, nobody understood what she meant. Tara Cindy, 24/03/2026, 10:46. She started patting her blouse, then her purse, then the tables. "The necklace," she said. "My necklace." I actually laughed. Not because it was funny, but because Lily was standing there 3 feet away wearing it. I said, "You mean the one you gave her?" Dennis turned and looked straight at Lily, and something in her face changed. No confusion, no embarrassment. No. Right, just a cold, immediate decision. She took it, Dennis said. The room froze. Lily blinked. "What?" Dennis' voice got louder. "The necklace was not for you to keep. I showed it to you. You took it." I felt heat shoot through my whole body. "What are you talking about? You put it on her." But Denise was already moving, already performing. She stepped back, one hand pressed dramatically to her chest, eyes bright with outrage. I knew it. I knew something was off. "She's been hovering near my things all afternoon." That was a lie, a ridiculous one, a disgusting one. And still, for one terrible second, the room did what rooms do when someone speaks with enough confidence. It hesitated. My daughter looked at me with instant panic, real panic, the kind a child gets when an adult says something impossible and the whole world suddenly stops making sense. "Mom," she whispered. She gave it to me. I dropped to Lily's level and put both hands to her shoulders. I know she did. But Dennis wasn't done. She took out her phone and said, "I already called the police." That landed like a glass shattering. "You called the police? On an 8-year-old? At the birthday lunch? Over a necklace you had literally just fastened around her neck with your own hands?" That was the moment my fear became something colder. Because normal people don't do that. Even cruel people don't jump there that fast unless they already planned to. And when the officers arrived, Dennis was ready, voice trembling, story polished, indignant but controlled. She pointed at Lily like my child was some tiny criminal standing in the middle of a crime scene. Lily had started shaking by then, not crying yet, just trembling. One hand pressed to the pendant like she didn't know whether to protect it or to rip it off. Officer Roos crouched down and asked softly, "Sweetheart, can I see the necklace?" Lily looked at me first. I nodded. She lifted it carefully. He leaned closer, and then his entire expression changed. That is where this really begins. "You need to step away from the child." Officer Matthew Roos said it calmly, but it hit the room harder than if he had shouted. For the first time since the police arrived, my Aunt Denise stopped talking. That alone should tell you how strange this was. A second earlier, she had been in full performance mode. Her voice, Heard, wide eyes, hand to her chest, she kept repeating that the necklace was very, very valuable and that children needed to learn consequences early. She said it like she was delivering wisdom, not trying to have my 80-year-old humiliated in front of her own family on her birthday. But when Officer Ruth looked from the pendant to Dennis and told her to step back, something in her cracked. Not all at once, just enough for me to see. A flicker, a pause, fear, and that scared me more than her screaming heart. Because what kind of woman calls the police on a child over a necklace she just gave away and then gets nervous when the police actually looks at it? My daughter Lily was pressed against my side so tightly I could feel her heart beat through my little party dress. Her fingers were cold. She kept trying not to cry, which somehow made it worse. Kids don't know how to fake calm when they're terrified. They just go silent in a way that feels too small for the room around them. I wrapped one arm around her shoulders and said quietly, "You are okay. Stay with me." Officer Roos held out his hand. "May I?" Lily looked up at me again before carefully lifting the necklace over her head. He took it gently, like he didn't want to scare her more than she already was. His partner, Officer Jenna Park, 31, stepped closer beside him. Both of them examined the pendant. Neither said anything for a few seconds. The silence stretched. My mother, Patricia, stood frozen by the kitchen archway, still holding a stack of napkins like she had forgotten what they were for. My brother, Evan, had finally stopped pretending to mess with the speaker and was staring openly now. Even Danny's expression had changed. She wasn't watching Lily anymore. She was watching the necklace. The detail lodged in my chest like a stone. If this had really been about theft, she would have been focused on the person she accused. Instead, she was tracking the pendant with the kind of sharp, desperate attention people reserve for something they are afraid of losing. Officer Parker asked, "Miss Ketter, where did you buy this?" Dennis answered too quickly. "It was a gift." "From who?" "A friend." "What friend?" That pause. There it was again. Dennis folded her arms. "I don't see how that's relevant." Officer Roos looked up. "It's relevant because this isn't standard jury." Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Lily turned her face into my side. "Mom, am I in trouble?" And that was the moment I had to split myself into halves of me in two. Half of me wanted to lurch across the room and ask my aunt what kind of sick person does this to a child. The other half had to stay steady for Lily. So I bent down and smoothed her hair back and said very clearly, "No, you were not in trouble. You didn't do anything wrong." I said it for her, but I also said it for every adult in that room who should have known better the second Dennis opened her mouth. Officer Packer asked Dennis the question again. "Who gave it to you?" Dennis shifted her weight. "It was an old piece. It's been in the family." My heart snapped up. That was a lie. A stupid lie. "There is no family necklace," I said. "I've never seen that before." Dennis shot me a look so vicious it almost made me laugh. Almost. There wasn't much humor left in that room. Then, incredibly, she changed the story again. "Fine, I bought it recently. I don't remember where." Evan let out a quiet, disbelieving breath. Even he heard how bad that sounded. You know, those moments when someone lies so badly, they actually make the truth feel closer. That was what that that was. Every answer Dennis gave made the room lean further away from her. And suddenly, little things from earlier started rearranging themselves in my head. Dennis refusing to leave her purse by the door. Dennis stepping into the back patio twice to answer calls she said were nothing important. Dennis snapping at my mother for touching the gift box. Dennis insisting on putting the necklace on Lily herself instead of handing it to her. At the time, those moments felt irritating. Now they felt planned. Officer Roost turned the pendant over in his hand and used his thumb to press along the edge. Something tiny shifted with a click. A compartment. Not big, barely visible, hidden so neatly that I wouldn't have noticed even if I had stared right at it. Officer Park leaned in closer, and both of their faces changed again, this time from suspicion to certainty. Dennis took one involuntary step forward. Officer Parker's voice sharpened immediately. Stay where you are. My mother finally found her voice. Dennis, what is going on? But Dennis ignored her. She looked at the officer and said, "This is ridiculous. She took it and I want it back." That was when I understood something that made my stomach turn. She didn't care that Lily was scared. She didn't care that the family was watching. She didn't even care that her story was falling apart. She just wanted that necklace back. Why? That question sat in the middle of the room like a lit fuse. Officer Roos stood and handed the pendant carefully to Officer Pack. Then he addressed Dennis in the tone people use when they have stopped being polite and started being precise. "You said the child stole this from you," he said, "but multiple witnesses saw you place it on her yourself. Now you've given three different explanations of where it came from, so I'm going to ask you one more time. Is there anything you want to correct before this goes further?" Dennis opened her mouth, closed it. Then she did something I'll never forget. She reached for her phone, fast, not casually, not like someone checking a text, like someone whose real panic had just kicked in. Officer Parker caught the movement immediately. "Mom, stop." Too late, the screen had already lit up in Denny's hands. I was standing at the angle just right enough to see it. Several unread messages. Same number, no name attached. All from that morning. And before Officer Parker took the phone from her, I saw one line on the lock screen that made my blood go cold. "Did you get it back yet?" And just like that, I knew this hurt started long before any of us sang happy birthday. "Did you get it back yet?" That was the text on Danny's phone. Not "where are you?" Not "call me when you leave." Not even "how's the party?" "Did you get it back yet?" Back from who? From Lily? From the police? From the disaster Dennis had just created in my living room? The second Officer Park took the phone from Dennis' hand, the whole story shifted. Up until then, there had still been a tiny part of me hoping this was some twisted misunderstanding, some bizarre emotional episode, something cruel, something, but yes, irrational. That text killed that hope. because it meant they had been a plan, and Dennis knew exactly what she was doing. Officer Parker glanced at the lead screen, then at Officer Roos. They didn't say much, but they did need to. Whatever they saw was enough. The tone in the room changed from awkward family dispute to active investigation so fast it made my skin prickle. Officer Roos turned to me first. Miss Bennett, I need you and your daughter to stay seated for a moment, all right? She is not under any accusation at this point. At that point, a strange phrase, maybe, but I understood what he was doing. He was clearing Lily without promising more than he could officially say in front of everyone else. Still, it helped a little. I guided Lily to the couch and sat with her against me. Her birthday handbag had slipped sideways in all the chaos, and one of the tiny glitters stars attached to it was hanging loose. That tiny detail nearly undid me because that's what this was really about. Not a necklace, not Denny's lies. A little girl in a birthday dress trying to understand why a grown woman she trusted had pointed at her like she was dangerous. Mom, Lily whispered, why is Aunt Dennis mad at me? I swallowed hard. She's not mad at you, sweetheart. She made a bad choice. Lily frowned the way children do when adult explanations aren't enough. But she said I stole it. I know, I said. She wasn't telling the truth. Across the room, Denise had abandoned her fake victim act and moved into something uglier, controlled by panic. Her voice got fluttered, shorter, less dramatic, and more calculating. I want my phone back, she said. Officer Park didn't look up. Not right now. That's private. Ruth answered, you filed a theft complaint involving a minor. This stopped being private the moment you involved law enforcement. That landed Dennis' jaw tightened. For the first time, other people in the family started speaking, not to defend her, but because silence was becoming impossible. My mother stepped forward first. Dennis, tell them the truth. It would have been a powerful moment if I hadn't come about 15 minutes too late. Dennis looked at her like she had betrayed her. I am telling the truth. No, you are not, Evan said. Everyone turned. My brother usually avoided conflict like it was contagious. He hated scenes, hated choosing sides, hated anything that might turn into family fallout 3 months later. But even he had a line, apparently, and Dennis had sprinted past it. She gave it to Lily, Evan said, louder this time. Glancing at the officers, I saw it. We all saw it. Dennis snapped. That isn't what happened. Then what happened? I shot back before I could stop myself. She looked at me with pure hatred. Then, no embarrassment, not even fear, hatred, because I had become the obstacle between her and whatever she was trying to recover. Officer Parker set Dennis' phone's face on the dining table. Here is what we know so far, she said. You gifted the necklace to the child in front of witnesses. Minutes later, you claimed she stole it. The necklace appears to contain a concealed compartment, and your phone indicates you were expecting to retrieve it. Dennis folded her arms. You were twisting this. Ruth said, then untwist it for us. There was There was the opening, the simplest one she was going to get. All she had to do was tell the truth. Instead, Dennis made it worse. She pointed at me. I think Rachel switched it. The room actually went silent at that. Not shocked silence, offended silence. I stared at her. What? She's always hated me, Dennis said, voice raising again as she found a new script. She probably changed the necklace or put something inside to make me look unstable. You ever hear a lie so desperate it exposes the liar more than the truth would have? This was that. Officer Roos didn't even blink. When would she have done that? Dennis hesitated. I don't know, earlier? At some point? You were holding the gift box when you arrived, I said. You never let out of your sight. She could have. No, even cut out, she couldn't have. My mother nodded slowly, and that was almost more shocking than anything else. Patricia Bennett never contradicted her sister in public, not once in my adult life. But now she was pale and rigid and suddenly very sure. You carried it in, my mother said. You opened it yourself. You fastened it on Lily yourself. Dennis looked around the room and realized, maybe for the first time, that the ground beneath her was gone. That was the turning point. Not the text, not the compartment, not even the officers. It was the moment Dennis saw that the audience she counted on had stopped clapping. Officer Park picked up the phone again and swiped through the visible notifications without unlocking more than she had to. Her expression tightened. Then she asked, "Who is it? Who is Marcus?" My stomach dropped. Marcus Hale, age 39, a family friend if you asked politely. A man who had drifted around holidays and cookouts for years because he did odd jobs for various relatives and always seemed to know more than he should about everybody's business. Charming when he wanted to, slippery all the time. Dennis said nothing. Officer Park looked up because the messages suggested he was expecting this item to be returned today. The room tilted. Markers? Not some stranger, not some faceless criminal outside our lives. Someone who had been in our homes. Someone who knew there would be a child at the party. Someone Dennis trusted enough to coordinate with while Lily blew out candles in the next room. I felt Lily shift against me. Mom. I kissed the top of her head without taking my eyes off Dennis. Ruth spoke carefully now, almost too carefully. Miss Carter, were you planning to use this child to carry something for someone else? Dennis' face did something I still can't fully describe. It didn't crumble, it emptied, which was answer enough. And then Officer Park asked the question that pushed the whole thing into a darker place. When you called us, were you trying to create a reason for us to take the necklace off her before everyone looked inside? No one in the room moved. No one needed to, because we all understood at exactly the same time how close Lily had come to being used as a cover for something far bigger than the family lie. And when Dennis finally opened her mouth, the name she whispered didn't just confirm Marcus, it tied the whole mess to something the police clearly already knew. Marcus set this up. Dennis said it so quietly that for a second I thought I had imagined it. But Officer Roos heard it. Officer Park heard it. My mother heard it too because I saw her hand fly to her mouth like she was trying to stop the truth from getting any bigger. Too late for that. The truth was already bigger than the room. And that was the worst part. Not just that Dennis had lied, not just that she had pointed at my 8-year-old daughter and called her a thief. It was this thing that had been moving around us before anyone noticed. Through phone calls, through careful timing, through a birthday gift handed to a child in front of frosting and balloons in family photos. That's the kind of betrayal that makes your skin crawl after the fact, because once you see it, you start replaying every second and realizing how close danger was standing to you the whole time. Officer Park's voice stayed level. What exactly did Marcos set up? Danny's eyes darted around the room as if she was still searching for some versions of events she could survive. I didn't know anything, she said. He told me not to ask questions. Officer Roos gave her a look that said he had heard the line before and never once believed it. That's not an answer. She swallowed. He gave me the necklace yesterday, said I just needed to hold onto it and hand it back after lunch. Why the lunch? I asked before anyone could stop me. Dennis glanced at me, and for the first time since this started, she looked genuinely ashamed. Or maybe not ashamed, concerned. He said a family gathering was safer. She muttered. She muttered that nobody would look twice. There it was, the sentence I think I had already known was coming, even before she said it. The one that turned all of us from cruel to calculated. Nobody could look twice. But people trust birthday parties. People trust wrapped gifts. People trust little girls in paper gowns and sparkly shoes. My entire body went cold. Officer Park held up the pendant between two fingers. Safer for what? Dennis hesitated long enough for Officer Cruz to step in. We can do this the slow way, he said, or you can help yourself by being honest right now. She shut her eyes, then finally the pieces started coming out. Not all at once. Dennis didn't suddenly become brave or truthful. She just ran out of room to lie. Marcus had given her the necklace the night before and told her there was a storage chip hidden inside the pendant. He said it contained financial records, account numbers, and names, messages, evidence connected to a fraud case people were already sniffing around. Dennis claimed she didn't know the full scope, but she knew enough to understand it was dangerous enough to know she shouldn't be carrying it, enough to know it couldn't be found on her. That was why she brought it to my house. That was why she insisted on giving it to Lily in front of everyone. And that was why she planned to take it back before the afternoon was over. And then something changed. According to Dennis, Marcus started texting her during the party saying the timing had moved up. He wanted the necklace back immediately. He was nearby. He was getting nervous. He kept asking if she had it, if anyone had seen it, if she was sure she hadn't messed this up. And Dennis panicked. She couldn't just walk over and yank it off Lily's neck in front of everyone without raising questions. She could have she couldn't live with it hidden on herself. She couldn't explain why a child was wearing a piece of jewelry she suddenly seemed desperate to reclaim. So she made the ugliest choice available to her. She weaponized authority. If police came in response to a theft, they would separate the child from the item, they would take the necklace off, they would return it to its owner, or at the very least, hand control of the situation back to Denise before anyone had time to inspect it closely. That had been her plan. If you are wondering whether she understood what she was doing to Lily in that moment, the answer is yes. Not in some abstract way, not vaguely, not accidentally, yes. Because Officer Ruth asked her directly, "You thought accusing an 8-year-old would be the fastest way to get the necklace back, didn't you?" And Dennis, after a long silence, nodded. "I don't think I've ever felt rage as clean as the rage I felt then. Not explosive rage, not screaming rage, the kind that turns your bones hard." Lily shifted beside me, small and confused, trying to follow the adult words. She wasn't meant to understand. She didn't know what fraud was. She didn't know what a sorry chip was. She didn't know how to close. She didn't know how close she was to becoming being used as a shield in a criminal hand off. She only understood one thing. On Dennis' light, she whispered. The question sliced through everything: the officers, the evidence, the family history, all of it. I pulled Lily into my lap, even though she was getting a little big for that now, and held her tight. "Yes," I said softly. "She lied." Lily looked across the room at Dennis with the kind of hurt only children can show: pure, open, unguarded. "Why?" No one answered. Because what could anyone say that would make sense to an 8-year-old? Because I wanted something from you, because I thought you were the easiest person to use, because I believe your fear was an acceptable price. There is no child sized version of that truth. My mother started crying quietly near the kitchen. Ivan looked like he wanted to punch a wall. Dennis stared at the floor as if refusing eye contact could somehow reduce what she'd done. It didn't. Officer Park began documenting statement. She took mine first, then Evan's, then my mother's. Every one of us said the same thing. Dennis arrived with the gift. Dennis opened the box. Dennis clasped the necklace around Lily's neck herself. There was no theft, only a setup. And with every witness statement, Dennis' options got smaller. Officer Roos stepped aside to make a call, speaking in a low professional phrases I couldn't fully hear, but I caught enough. Hidden evidence, false report, name associate, ongoing case. The last phrase hung in the air: ongoing case. So this was even worse than a one-day panic. Marcus didn't just pull Dennis into a personal mess, he had dropped her into something law enforcement was already tracking, which meant the necklace wasn't just suspicious, it mattered. That brought the final piece into focus. Officer Roos returned a minute later and looked directly at Dennis. The content independent are consistent with materials connected to active investigation. The room went dead silent again. Dennis' face lost what little color it had left, and there should have been the lowest point of her. It wasn't, because the story still had one more turn. The night barely felt real. The birthday decoration stayed up because I didn't have the strength to pull them down. Half melted ice cream sat in the freezer next to untouched leftover cake. Lily fell asleep in my bed, one hand still wrapped in my in my shirt like she was afraid I might disappear if she let go. I didn't sleep much. I kept replaying Danny's voice. She took it. I kept hearing Lily ask, "Why?" And then came the next morning, the detail I didn't understand until later. Dennis, after hours of police questions and family fallout and realizing Marcus had dragged her into something bigger than she could manage, finally got access to her phone again. She checked in and went pale because there was a message waiting for her. Not from me, not from mother, not from the police, from Marcus, and it said, "They have it. Don't contact me again." That was the moment Dennis understood two things at once. She had failed him, and he was willing to leave her holding everything alone. The message on Dennis' phone the next morning was only 5 words long. They have it, don't contact me again. That was it. No apology, no warning, no plan, just abandonment. And somehow, after everything she had done, that was the moment she finally looked afraid in the real way. Not performative, not offended, not dramatic, afraid. Because up until then, Dennis had still been acting like this was a mess she might manage, a misunderstanding she could soften, a story she could reshape if she said the right thing to the right person. But the text made one thing brutally clear. Marcus Hale was gone. The necklace was in the police hands, and Dennis was now standing alone in the wreckage of a scheme she had willingly dragged my daughter into. That is the part of a lot of stories skipped. The end at the review, the stop at the gas, but the cutaway once the villains is exposed. But real life doesn't end there. Real life is what comes after. And what came after was ugly, exhausting, and in a strange way, exactly what needed to happen. By the end of the day, Officer Roos had called me personally to explain what they could officially confirm. He couldn't give me every detail, but he gave me enough to close every question that had been ripping through my mind since Dennis pointed at Lily in the living room. The hidden compartment inside the painting contained a storage chip. On the chip were financial records, account information, copied documents, and message logs tied to an active fraud investigation involving Marcos and at least one other person. Dennis not invented had not inverted the danger. It was real, but she had lied about almost everything else. She knew the necklace was not ordinary jewelry, but she knew Marcus had told but she knew Marcus had told her not to open it. She knew she wanted it transported quietly and returned quickly. And most important of all, she knew enough to understand that if the pendant was found on her, she could be implicated immediately. So she built herself as a buffer. Lily. That was the logic of it. Sick, cowardly, but logically. Dennis chose a family birthday because it gave her cover. She bought the necklace as a gift because no one questions a gift opened in front of a smiling child. She insisted on putting it on Lily herself because she needed to control exactly when and how it changed hands. Then, when Marcus started pressuring her earlier than expected, she panicked about how to retrieve it and made the worst decision possible. She used the police as part of the plan. That answered every piece. Why she made sure everyone saw the necklace go on Lily's neck, why she kept checking her phone, why she accused Lily within minutes, why she was more focused on getting the pendant back than on the child she had just terrified, why Officer Roos froze when he saw it, why Dennis went pale when she read the next morning's message. It was never a theft accusation born out of confusion. It was an extraction attempt disguised as an outrage. And my 8-year-old daughter was the shield she chose. Hearing it explained that clearly should have made me feel better. In one way, it did, but certainly is a relief after chaos. Trust is easier to carry than confusion, but emotionally, it landed like a second blow. I remember sitting at my kitchen table after the call, staring at a paper plate with the leftover slice of Lily's birthday cake still sitting on it, dry around the edges now, and feeling the rush of anger so strong I had to put the phone down and breathe through it. Not because then it has broken the law, because she had looked at a little girl who trusted her and thought, yes, her. That was the part I couldn't stop circling. Lily didn't understand fraud investigation, so that she didn't understand evidence chains or hidden storage devices or why adults make reckless bargains when they think they won't be the ones paying for them. She only understood that someone called Aunt had smiled, giving her a necklace, and then tried to make strangers believe she was a thief. The kind of betrayal doesn't disappear just because the fact came out. That afternoon, Lily sat beside me on the couch in pajamas, knees tucked under a blanket, her birthday headband gone. All the glitter, excitement from the day before replaced with this quiet, watchful sadness. She traced a pattern on the fabric with her finger for a while before finally asking the question I think I had been holding since it all happened. So the police know I didn't lie? I turned to her fully. Yes, I said. They know. All of them. Yes. She looked down. Even Grandma, that one hurt. Because kids always know more than adults think. Lily had seen the hesitation in the room. She had seen who went silent, who looked uncertain, who didn't defend her fast enough. Yes, I told her. Grandma knows too. Lily nodded once, but I could still tell she was carrying it, still trying to make sense of the feeling of being doubted in a room that should have protected her instantly. So I said the thing I needed her to hear as many times as it took. This was not your fault, not even a little. You did nothing wrong. An adult made a bad and selfish choice, and that is on her, not on you. That was the emotional payoff for me, even more than the police confirmation or Dennis' collapse. It was that moment looking at my daughter in her eye and putting the weight back where it belonged on the adult, on Dennis, where it should have been from the start. The consequences came fast after that. Legally, Dennis was in trouble, serious trouble. Filing a false report involving a minor was enough on its own to trigger consequences. Add in her position and attempted transfer of concealed evidence tied to an active fraud case, plus the witness statement from everyone present, and whatever illusion of control she had left evaporated quickly. She was interviewed more than once. Her phone records mattered. Her messages with Marcos mattered. The timeline mattered. Everything she had done in those frantic minutes after gifting the necklace was now part of a record she couldn't talk her way out of. I'm not going to pretend I know every final legal detail because some of it moved beyond what I was directly told. But I know this much. Dennis did not walk away from it as the wrong and in a family misunderstanding. She became part of the investigation she had tried to dodge. Socially, the fallout was just as severe. My mother didn't speak to her for weeks after the truth came out, and for my mother, that is practically an earthquake. Patricia had spent years soothing over Dennis' behavior, explaining it, minimizing it, reframing it as a stress or pride or just the way she is. That ended the day she watched her sister use police in public shame against a child. Evan cut ties almost immediately. No dramatic speech, no big confrontation, just a clean stop. No calls returned, no invitations, no pretending. Other relatives did what families always do at first. The whisper, the split into camps, the try to soften the language. She was under pressure. She made a terrible mistake. Marcus manipulated her. And maybe all of that was true in pieces. But none of it changed the core fact. Dennis made a series of choices. And every one of those choices moved towards Lily, not away from her. That truth held. Even the relatives who wanted to defend Dennis eventually ran out of room because there was no version of this story where accusing an 8-year-old of theft after personally placing the item on her neck became understandable. There were no versions where calling the police on a child looked like panic instead of strategy. There was no version where Lily was anything about innocent. There was no version where Lily was anything but innocent. Personally, the consequences were immediate and permanent. I stopped trying to keep the peace. That may sound small, but in families like mine, it's huge. There is always pressure to smooth things over, to stay civil, to let time do the work. Accountability should do. I had done that for years with Dennis. I told myself boundaries were enough, distance was enough, careful visits were enough. They weren't. After that day, I made it clear Dennis would not have contact with Lily, not direct, not supervised, not through family events, not through gifts left with other relatives. Nothing. My responsibility was not to preserve family comfort, it was to protect my daughter. And that changed rippled outward. Family gathering got smaller, simpler, more honest. People watched each other differently after that. Old incidents got re examined. Stories Dennis had told over the years started sounding less like misunderstood moments and more like patterns. For the first time, I think everyone saw what I had quietly known for a long time. Dennis just didn't create drama, she created traps. The only difference this time was that she aimed not at a child, she aimed at a child and it finally blew up where everyone could see it. As for Marcus, his disappearing act told its own story. The final text they have in "Don't contact me again" wasn't just cold, it was revealing. It proved he knew exactly what was in the necklace, exactly what Dennis had failed to recover, and exactly how exposed they both were. He had used her the same way she had used Lily, as a convenient layer between himself and the consequences. There is a bitter kind of irony in that. Dennis learned what it feels like to be disposable, to be, and maybe that still wouldn't have murdered to me if Lily hadn't asked one last question night later while I was tucking her into bed. Is Aunt Dennis still my aunt? Kids ask things in ways adults never do. Clean, precise, straight to the center. I sat on the edge of her bed and thought about it for a second. Then I said, "She is part of the family, but that doesn't mean she gets to be close to us." Lily considered that. Then she nodded, like that was enough. And maybe for now it was. Before I turned off her lamp, I reached into my pocket and took out a small braided bracelet she and I had made together months earlier out of a blue and white embroidered thread. Cheap, uneven, slightly frayed, she had forgotten about it. I tied it gently around her wrist. Then I said, she smiled. There, I said. She smiled a little. "That's not fancy." "No," I said, "but it's yours. And it doesn't come with anything scary attached." That made her laugh. Just a tiny laugh. But everything, but after everything, it felt enormous. That was the real ending. Not the police, not Danny's panic, not Marcus running. A little girl in bed, safe again, wearing something simple that meant exactly what it claimed to mean. Dennis tried to hang guilt around my daughter's neck. In the end, all she really did was expose herself.